marketing 3. We seem to be moving very fast. We've covered a lot and we keep covering lots. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Karabo, are you sorted with my screen?
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so we looked at the legal forces in the previous lesson. We spoke about, what is it that we unpacked in the previous lesson about the legal forces, guys? Let's name them. Which laws did we unpack in the previous lesson?
Copyright.
We spoke about POPIA Act. What else? We spoke about IP. What other laws did we talk about, guys, in the previous lesson?
So we also spoke about trademarks and copyright.
Yes, trademark protection, that's correct. We spoke about laws and discrimination. We spoke about advertising laws. We spoke about identity theft. So those are the aspects that we focus on the legal forces. So we are going to look at something else now. We are going to take a practical example and apply it and discuss how marketing practitioners can analyze the legal forces. So we need to understand the digital macro environment and identify the legal forces of the digital macro environment. So here we are going to do a case study analysis. The key terms for lesson 32 are still the same with the key terms for lesson 30 and 31 because we are looking at the same concepts but applying them in a real life scenario. So I'd like you guys to discuss a lot because I've been talking and talking and talking. So we have got this class activity. These two questions you need to discuss. From a legal perspective, what steps should be considered by digital marketing when mining customer data? What steps should be considered by digital marketers when collecting customer data? I can even give you guys example. You work for Boston Media House. You are part of the digital marketing team and you deal with students. So what legal steps do you need to consider when handling or getting student information? Guys, are you ready to be digital marketers? I'm listening, guys. So do you just use people's ID, numbers, date of birth, or there are some steps that you need to take in order to protect or to store or to dispose their data. Think about students who graduated last year or who have left already. What do you do with their data as digital marketers? Lebo, do you want to give it a try?
So I think the personal information of the students needs to stay within the Boston Media House database.
Okay. So does it have to be password protected or any staff at Boston can access it?
No, it needs to be password protected.
Okay, what else? Guys, have you ever been to supermarkets whereby when it comes to refunds or when an issue is escalated, there's someone who is specific, like they'll call the name being like authorized, please? Have you heard that? Authorized?
Yes, sir.
A storekeeper shouting authorized, then someone would come, they use a tag or something so that you get a refund. So it means that there is only one person who can authorize a refund in the supermarket. So with data mining, you can also have one person who is authorized to collect that data. In that manner, you are having benchmarks or you are having safeguards to make sure that when there is something amiss, when it comes to data, you know which person to approach. As much as you can underestimate these guys, customers' information is very sensitive. Customers' information is very sensitive and it cannot be shared or be accessed by anyone. So one thing that you need to do is to make sure that there is someone who has been authorized, who is designated to deal with customer data. And when you are looking for a job, I know that there are digital marketing jobs out there that talks about data capturing or data mining manager, something like that. Yes, Tatu, you've got a hand up.
So since you used Boston as an example, I remember I had to request a proof of registration letter that was asked for by my medical aid. So the only person that can open that document is me, because in the email they said that the only way the document can be opened is by using my ID number. So I think that's another way in which the customer or the client's personal information can be protected.
That's perfectly correct. So the document that they send to you is password protected and you need to unlock it with using your ID number. That's true. Even pay slips. Remember, we had an example of a pay slip in the previous lesson. You know, the pay slips that I received from Boston are password protected, even the ones that I used to receive at UJ. So they avoid things like fraud, because someone can commit fraud in your name. And when these things happen, Boston doesn't want to be liable for that, you know, because let's say they give you a proof of registration and it's being used elsewhere for other purposes. You would quickly go to Boston saying that, how come this is happening? So Boston with its team, be it a compliance team or a digital marketing team, they've come up with measures, with steps to make sure that when you are giving out, be it academic transcripts or proof of registration, let's put a password on it. So that's one of the steps that brands can use when dealing with customer data. What else, guys? What other steps should be considered by digital marketers when mining or handling data?
So would you say terms and conditions can also be a factor?
Yes,
Okay.
because terms and conditions actually lay out the expectations from both the brand and the customer. So yes, that's correct. What else, guys? What about payments? What about payments? Because just think of any, maybe I was supposed to unpack what customer data is. What is customer data, guys? What are the aspects? What is it that we can consider that this is part of customer data? Let's talk about customer data first before we look at the steps. Please name the aspects of customer data, things that can be considered as customer data.
Personal information like the name, the location, gender, employment status, race, I think income, and also financial information.
Okay, you have nailed almost everything. So gender, yes. Banking details, banking details such as the bank that you are banking with, your account number. What else, guys? What is it that Ntati did not mention? Because there are lots of aspects, depending with the industry, there are lots of aspects that you can call or you can refer to as customer data. The next of kin, is there somewhere, guys, where you have filled in information about the next of kin?
Yes, like the doctor.
Next of kin, what else? What is it, guys, that you have filled at Boston in order to be registered as a student? So those are customer information.
Educational background.
It's customer data. Criminal records, some people, have you ever been asked that, have you been arrested before? Or is there a crime pending against you?
Yes, yeah.
So all those are aspects of customer data. So we go back again. Yes, Ntati?
Would you say what did I want to say now? In a digital space, would you say customer data can also be the things that a person does on their phone? Because, like apps can track the things that you do on your phone, like the websites that you visit and things like that. Can that also be classified as customer data?
Yes, as long as it is under your name as a customer. Things such as your accounts. Nowadays on a CV, we put social media accounts and we put links to our accounts, to our LinkedIn accounts or our Twitter handle. As long as something that has got your name on it, your identity on it, it is your customer data. So as we're discussing this, Tati said that we can always make sure that the data is password protected. What else, guys? What other steps can we consider? I know it's in the afternoon. Most of you don't want to think, but let's think, guys. The less the participation, the more the class gets boring.
Yeah.
I'm listening, Lebo.
So what about encryption, sir?
Yes, I was actually thinking about, yes, encryption. You can encrypt the data and it can only be decrypted for specific purpose. So it's called data encryption. Yes. And also you can use data once only. So if it's for the purpose of registration, you can only use for that purpose of registration, then it gets deleted. Guys, do you use images on WhatsApp whereby it says you can view once only, then afterwards you can't view it anymore?
Yes.
Are you familiar with that, guys, other than Tati?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Of course, naughty people always know naughty things. There's no way you guys cannot know how to. Okay. All right. So those are the steps. There are many other steps that you can consider other than data encryption and password protection.
Yeah, I also think like backing up the data.
Data backup and restoration. Nowadays, people are talking about cloud adoption. Do you know anything about cloud, guys? Backing up in the cloud. So that one is definitely a correct label. So as much as we're talking about data mining, what happens to the data if you no longer need it? So think about students who were studying at Boston before 5 years ago. What do they do with their details? Do they keep it or do they discard that data and throw it away? What do they do? Since they are no longer students at Boston. What are they going to do with your data, your customer information once you leave Boston because you guys are in your final year? So let's think like digital marketers now. Do you think they must throw away your information?
Personally, yes.
Personally, yes. Okay. Who else? Ntati?
I agree. So, but then don't they still need it?
For what?
Just because you're not at Boston anymore, you're still going to be in the school system because you were once a student. So they can wipe away most of the data and then leave the important one, if that makes sense.
Okay, why would it be important when you are no longer there? Yeah, I'm trying to force you to say something which is very relevant.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily important for me as the student. I mean, not for the institution. It's more important for me as the student. Because let's say I lose the original copy of my diploma, for example.
Okay.
It again. So in order for me to get it, they need to have my credentials on the system. If they don't have my credentials on the system, then I can't get my diploma.
That's true. Let's hear from Mr. Committee. Is Committee your second name or what?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, Levo, let's hear you.
Yeah. I was about to say what Tati said, because I was like, as you leave the school and then maybe it's your third year and then you're going to look for a job. They might need like a few documents from your where you're coming from like your school. So when they kept it, it will be easy for you to go back and always like ask.
Okay, that's true. There's another reason. What else, guys? Why would they still keep your information other than producing your copies in case you lost your certificates? What else would they still need your details?
Could you say in case they are offering extended courses? Maybe, for example, like it only ends at a bachelor's now. Maybe they add honors, whatnot. Just in case.
Okay. Something that I didn't think about, but you are right. Let's say tomorrow, Boston is diversifying and they want to include masters or honors program. And they know that you guys already qualified because you've got your diplomas or your undergrad. Then they consider you. What else? There's still something that I want you guys to mention that you're not mentioning, which I know is very relevant, especially if you get into political office or you've got a high position at the company. Maybe they choose you to be a marketing director or whatever. So why would Boston keep your details in their system?
To promote using you, to promote the school.
Yeah, it also does. I've seen on LinkedIn, Boston is using past students to come up with their stories. So that's true, but you're still mentioning what I want you to mention.
I said, please meet us halfway. We are trying so hard.
Okay, guys, they still need your details in the system for verification processes. Remember, there's academic fraud out there, right? There are people who have had high positions at offices, even when you become a chief marketing officer, you become a president, they'll always want to verify whether your diploma is legit or not. So here you are not asking for a lost copy like you guys said, but they need to check with Boston whether the diploma that you claim you have, you actually got it from Boston. So I realized, for example, I left Monash University in 2013. That's long ago, that's 10 years ago. But if I get a job somewhere, even if it's written, I've got a legit degree that says I was at Monash, but they can also call Monash to verify whether it's true I got a degree from there. Committee, you wanted to say something?
Never mind.
Pardon?
I forgot.
You know, this never mind thing kill a lot of relationships, eh? Am I lying, guys? When someone also say, I never mind, and be like, what is it that wanted me to tell me?
That's very true.
But anyway, I hope it will still come up level. So many academic fraud out there, just like with payslip fraud that you mentioned. And sometimes, you know, institutions will still keep your data for those purposes. And it's not only for verification. Let's think about take a look. Sometimes also, if a crime has been committed and one or the other, that customer data can help the law enforcement in the investigations of that case. You can always go back to customer data. So that's how I see companies keep transactions, you know, from a legal point of view, especially if those transactions can assist in the investigation of any crime. You know, think about the ATMs and the camera. Do you know that ATMs have got cameras, guys?
I know, but I've never seen it before.
Yes, ATM do have cameras. They can even tell your mood, whether you have been paid or you are broke. You know, when you are withdrawing money and you are sad, that camera will be watching you.
Even in South Africa, that sounds like an American one.
No, in South Africa, go at Standard Bank ATM. There's that shiny, tiny thing where you'll be smiling at, you'll be busy looking at the camera.
Mm.
Remember, there's that woman who was killed in Cape Town. It's a case that actually became a national thing. The name was Paya something, if I remember. One of the things that was helpful to the case was the person who withdrew money using her card. She's not the one who withdrew money. They saw that at the ATM in Cape Town. So it happens in the country. So always smile at that camera, even if your balance is -0.
They must withdraw during load shedding. They'll be fine.
Pardon?
I'm saying they must withdraw during load shedding. They'll be fine.
You know, those cameras have got their own batteries, if I know very well. So they do happen, guys. You know, especially when someone is disappeared. We want to know whether when they disappeared, did they withdraw money to travel with? You know, especially in kidnapping cases, they can actually see where your ATM card was used and who used it. So they can use those cameras to see, they can even see the amount and whether the person who was using it was in a panic mode and so on. So with online behavior, you know, you can also see the card details. Remember, you enter your card details as well as the date of that card, the expiry date of that card, and the CV. What do they call it? CVV number at the back of the card. So those data can actually be safeguarded by companies, and they make sure that it has got strict access. But when law enforcement agencies want those details, they can always have a trail on them. All right, as we spoke about the steps that needs to be considered when handling data, name 3 laws that are aimed at protecting personal data. 3 South African laws that are aimed at protecting personal data. Which ones are those, guys? We mentioned them in the previous lesson. Remember, we are now doing a case study analysis, sort of a revision.
Is it the Poppy Act?
Yes, the Poppy Act does protect personal data. 1, we are left with 2. Poppy Act, 1. Remember, guys, these legal forces, they do help because they're working on your assignment. It will talk about personal analysis. There are some legal factors that you need to mention there when using SPA to you delivery service. This is what we are discussing now, and you are getting answers in this session. I think there are 4 or 5 laws that you need, 5 factors that you need to mention under each factor. If it's political, you need to mention 4 political forces. I think it's out of 20 marks. So if it's economic, you need to provide 4 arguments. So now we are talking about legal, you know. Poppy Act has been mentioned. What else do you need to mention? What are other laws that you need to mention? Of course, you have to motivate these laws based on your own understanding. That's where it will be tricky. Personal information, guys. Poppy Act. We also have privacy laws. Remember, we spoke about privacy, guys. Do you remember?
Yes.
Aimed at protecting personal data. So yes, privacy laws do have a play on personal data. What other law, guys? Last one. Imameti, I'm listening. The last one is aimed at Ntati's proof of registration in having a password.
Data protection.
Yes, data protection on its own, it's a law. It goes under privacy, it goes under POPIA. So yes, but it's not exclusive. Which one would embark on that one, guys? Thank you for trying, Makosazana. Identity theft. Identity theft, guys, it's a law on its own. You can be tried in the court of law for identity theft, for violating identity theft. The reason why your document entity could have a password is because they are protecting it from someone who would have access and pretend to be you.
So does it have a specific name or is it just identity theft?
Yes, it's identity theft. For example, you'd hear the newspapers when they are reporting on that, they would say Ntati Mosala was arrested yesterday for identity theft. So you've violated the law of identity theft. We also have other laws such as revenge porn. Do you know revenge porn, guys?
Yes.
What is revenge porn, people?
So when someone posts a video or a picture of you that you sent to them privately, of you nude or naked.
Okay, that's true. Guys need to listen to this because so many guys who leak women's videos and nudity and stuff like that. Though women also have got a tendency of secretly filming their partners, then all of a sudden you are blackmailing them. If they don't hit to that blackmail, you release it. So I know you guys, you thought maybe there'll be something like Identity Theft Act. If you go and have a look, you can find it because many laws come in the form of an act, such as POPI Act. But identity theft is also part of a law. That's why you can be arrested if you do break that law or you participate in it.
Sir,
Yes.
what's the second one that you mentioned besides identity theft and POPI Act?
Privacy laws.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, so here's the case study that we are going to do. We are going to have a case study on data breach. Do you know what data breach is, guys, right? Bantu Benkos, do you know what data breach is? Okay, I'm going to ask you after I've read this. So this is the link. South African banks caught up in a ransomware attack on debt collector. This happened in 2019. 2 years ago, it was reported by Admire Moyo from IIT Web. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to read quickly. South African banks have acknowledged some of their customer data was compromised by the cyber attack on debt recovery solution provider, Debt-In Consultants. ITWeb yesterday reported that debt collector Debt-In was hit by a ransomware attack which exposed as much as 1.4 million personal records of South Africans. Debt-In, which is a debt recovery solution partner to many South African financial services institutions, said the ransomware attack by cyber criminals resulted in a significant data breach of consumer and employee personal information. FNB, ABSA, Standard Banks, and African Bank are some of the financial institutions that make use of Debt-In service and have confirmed the impact of cyber attack on their business. The debt collector believes it was attacked in April, but only discovered the breach last week, about 5 months later. Says FNB in a statement to ITWeb. FNB has been made aware of a data breach that has impacted Debt-In, a third-party provider of service of debt recovery service. The bank takes the protection of customer information and privacy very seriously. As a result, we are communicating directly to customers whose information may have been exposed. Furthermore, we are exercising our legislative obligation in line with data privacy and protection guidelines. Repairing the rupture. ABSA notes it is aware of the breach, which includes a small portion of its customer data and voice recordings. ABSA is working closely with the third party to investigate the cause of the breach and to prevent any further data being exposed as a result of this incident. Furthermore, the bank has taken additional precautions and has heightened monitoring of these customer accounts. Specifically, all ABSA's customer information from the service provider has been recorded and all data transfers has been suspended with immediate effect. An independent review of the service provider's IT environment has also been initiated. ABSA will notify impacted customers directly. The Big Four bank says customers who suspect suspicious activity are requested to contact the ABSA fraud line 0860 557 557. As an added measure, ABSA also offers a free digital fraud warranty for customers using our app, says the bank. Yesterday, African Bank issued a statement confirming Debt-In was targeted by sophisticated cyber criminals in April. African Bank notes that at the time, expert security advice concluded there was no evidence the ransomware attack has resulted in a data breach. It adds that Debt-In is now aware that personal data of certain customers, including a number of African Bank loan customers under debt review, have been compromised. According to the bank, Debt-In is confident no data shared post 1 April 2021 has been compromised, as robust mitigation plan has been implemented by Debt-In to contain and reduce any further adverse impact, it notes. We have been collaborating with Debt-In to address this breach, says Piet Swanepoel, Chief Risk Officer of African Bank. We have notified the relevant regulatory authorities, and we are also in the process of alerting customers who have been affected via email and SMS. As an additional precautionary step, ABSA, African Bank's fraud prevention team, has enhanced security measures to protect all customers, says the bank. Standard Bank says it is treating this incident and the investigation surrounding it with the utmost priority while working closely with Debt-In, the relevant authorities, the South African Banking Risk Information Center, the Southern African Fraud Prevention Service, and the Banking Association of South Africa to mitigate any potential impacts. Anyway, it seems to be long and we are running out of time. But do you get the relevance and the significance of customer data in digital marketing, guys? Because that's all this information is all about. Do you get the relevance of this data breach?
Yes.
So I need to ask you guys, what are the impacts of cyber attacks on their brains and business operation? What do you think are the impacts of this cyber attack by a debt collector on those banks? So the first impact, guys, is trust. When things like this happen, the first thing that comes to customer mind is trust. Can I trust these banks with my information? So as brands, you need to make sure that customer trust is at higher levels. Otherwise, customers wouldn't want to associate themselves with you, to associate their personal information with you, because they don't trust you. They don't trust the systems that you use to store or to safeguard their data. What legal steps should South African banks take before a data breach occurs? What are the legal steps, guys, that need to be taken before a data breach occurs? Okay, it's the same thing that I mentioned, guys, and Poppy Act addresses that actually, that there has to be designated people who only process data. So it's not something that is visible to every staff. So that's one of the legal steps that South African banks should implement before a data breach occurs. And also, having a legally binding policy that talks about data backup and recovery. So, as a customer, does a data breach concern you guys? Let's say you bank with FNB or whatever banks that we mentioned there. Does it concern you as a customer? Does a data breach concern you? Karabo, would a data breach concern you? Yes, Ntati?
So I'd say it would concern me, but not that much, because I think you asked us earlier on if we receive messages from companies or something like that, companies which we didn't give our personal information to. So already there's a data breach type of thing going on. So I don't think it would make that much of a difference, because already there's a lot of firms and companies that have our personal information. I don't know if I'm making sense.
You are making sense, but you are looking this at a lighter note. I do get what you mean, that you're not concerned because these people are going to contact you anyway. Data breach happens whenever we receive SMS, which is true. But before I respond to you, I saw Lebo was saying something.
So I'm saying that it does like concern me, because like when I share my information, with the business or with the company, like I'm assuming that they have like proper, security measures that will protect my data, So obviously this will like make me lose trust for the business. Like looking at long term, like it might have happened, but what if it happens next and they can't do anything about it?
Okay, that makes sense as well. But guys, one thing that we also need to think, Lebo and Tati, is that we are talking about bank here. These are banks. These are people who keep your money, right? So you have to be very concerned, because you do not know what information they've actually stored and what they are going to do with that information. But of course, if you are broke, you wouldn't be concerned, because you always have 50 Rand or 20 Rand in your account. But let's think about someone who's actually banking with these banks and they've got like many products with them, loans, like these investments and stuff like that. They have to be concerned because it means that money can also disappear from your account. But you mentioned very, very insightful points there, that data breach happens almost every day in our lives. That's why we receive SMSs that we never initiate. You also mentioned an insightful point there, Lebo, that information that we give out to brands is based on trust. So data breach means also trust that has been breached. So then does a multi-factor authentication convenient to you as a customer? Does a multi-factor authentication inconvenient to you as your customer? Do you know what a multi-factor is, guys?
So is it like the one-time pins?
Yes. So instead of only logging with your password, they send a code to you, or they ask you to log in using a fingerprint. So it's having more than one access in order to get access to your account. So instead of only logging in using your password, you need to get a verification, maybe via an SMS or via a phone call.
So for me,
because remember, anyone can have your password. People can guess your password. But if they send a code as well or do another factor, then it becomes more secure.
So I'd say, like, generally, it's not really an inconvenience for me. The only time it becomes an inconvenience is when, let's say, I lost my phone or I changed my number. Now they send the OTP to my old email or to my old phone number, and now I have to find a way to retrieve my password without using my phone number or my email and things like that. So on a regular day, it's not necessarily an inconvenience. But if you're in a hurry and you've changed numbers, personal details, I'd say that's when it becomes sort of like an inconvenience.
That's completely true. And it also provides that layer of security. Do you know, I've received many Gmail emails saying that here's your code. Even for WhatsApp, you receive an SMS saying that here's a code for WhatsApp. Someone is trying to log in without your knowledge. Do you know, guys, that a person can steal your WhatsApp account?
Yes.
They can key in your number. They can install a new WhatsApp on their phone, key in your number, then WhatsApp send a code to your SMS to that number. All of a sudden, they are sending you a WhatsApp saying that there's a code that you received from me. Please be quick and send it to me. Then you send it to them. All of a sudden, you have been kicked out of WhatsApp. That's another form of identity theft. And this one is very terrible because you are the one who give that code to them, even if it was meant for a number. So these are the legal factors, guys, that happen on a daily basis. There's ransomware, which comes in form of a data breach, where the cyber criminals will demand some money from you, or else they are going to use your data for something else. Or they can even sell your data to your competitors. So we need to keep in mind that laws are developed in order to provide a framework for control and regulation that aim to enable individuals and brands to go about their business in an acceptable manner. However, laws are open to interpretation, and there are many legal and ethical considerations in online trading environments. We also need to be able to understand that many laws aim to prevent unethical digital marketing practices. So marketing professionals must understand and work within this regulatory framework. So data breach is not only done by cyber criminals. There are also snitches within companies who can steal data and supply it to other competitors. Do you know that, guys?
Yes, sir.
Someone can steal data in FNB and sell it to ABSA. So this is unethical digital marketing practice. We are in the boardroom as a marketing team, we are working on a strategy. All of a sudden, you take that strategy that we've come up with and sell it to our competitor. These things do happen. So these are legal factors, guys, that you should take note of. Any questions or any comments? Okay, I assume that there are no questions. If there are any questions that may come up later, please don't hesitate to contact me or to discuss on Core Campus Discussion Forum. So on Thursday, we'll be looking at the social forces of the digital marketing environment. So we are actually getting close to PESEL. We have looked at P, we have looked at E and T, we have looked at L, and we are going to be looking at S on Thursday. Okay, guys, did you understand everything on this lesson? Did you enjoy it? Do you find these things interesting or not?
I do.
Sir, quick question.
Yes. Yes.
Would it not be possible just to ask, like, maybe the school to just say third years must come at least like to class like more often, not online but face to face, maybe like 3 weeks in a month or something.
So you don't prefer online classes, you prefer offline classes. That's what you mean?
Yes. Am I the
Okay.
only one? I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. Let me not speak for
I
everybody.
don't. We had this,
Tati, you prefer online classes only?
not only, so I prefer both. A lot of people said they prefer online classes. I remember we had this discussion in class, but I don't think it would work for everyone, and maybe that's why it's not possible to implement that.
Okay. On my side, I can do both what I'm required to do, but I prefer physical classes than offline classes because with offline classes, there's no eye contact, there's no that actual engagement that I would prefer in class. But if this is working for the majority of you guys, we can always do both. It's just beyond my control, but I can always ask my superiors if we can actually make it physical, but we need to be on the same side as a class. So if it's something that it's Karabo only who feels it, then there's nothing that I can do. Or maybe we can discuss it next week, because next week I'm meeting in class. Otherwise, attendance doesn't matter really, because the same faces that I see online is the same face that I see in class. It's not like the class is always full. So I don't know. But let's discuss this Karabo in class and hear what others would say, because right now it's only 3 of you guys. It's only 4 of you. There's Ntati, there's Karabo, there's Lebo, and there's Makosazan. Okay, people, let's see each other next week.